Hello, welcome back to the studio. I've done it already a couple of times, but I'm going to redo it in case you need some information about how I'm putting the paper up. So I put a little piece of tape on the top. So those papers are called stock cards. I believe they're around. They might be 100 pounds per. I don't really know how it works in English, to be honest with you. I know they're 100 pounds. I don't know what's the surface for 100 pounds. You know, I'm from Europe, so we do more like a gram per square centimeter or square meter. So I'm just putting some tape like this. Okay. The reason I do that is because when I untape it, it has just those beautiful little lines around it. And the reason why I work on paper is because those stock cards, I believe something like this cost about, I'm not even sure it costs 30 or 40 cents a piece. So it's great because you can paint. You don't have to worry too much about the cost of material and so on. So it's pretty good. So I picked up another flower. I really like this one for some reason. I really like the vase. In colors it was beautiful. In black and white it's a bit different, but still, it's pretty interesting. So we're gonna start. Making sure I'm on focus. Yes. Okay, so let's do it. The background on this one is really dark. We're talking almost about, black. So I still have some paint on my palette, so I'm just going to use it with a lot of turpentine. If that thing was drying, I'm not even sure we would still see some of the drawings, but because of the turpentine almost disappearing when it dries. But because it's paper and it's getting wet, so the drawing is really nicely visible. When we paint a vase like this, and it will be about the same for each time you paint something that is something that rotates, a cylinder, a sphere, whatsoever, you need to make sure that the balance is the same on both sides. I mean, the symmetry is important. You don't want something that is bigger here, smaller here, or not well balanced. So for this black, just for this one, sometimes it's different, but for this one, I'm mixing black with a lot of liquid, so I'm still going to get some transparency, not a lot, but some. So it's going to give some life to that black. If I was doing just black with no transparency, the surface would be really, completely opaque. We will not see any variation in the black. And what I want is to have a little tiny bit of variation, so it's not completely blocked. So right now I'm working with what we call the negative space. So that means I'm not looking at what I'm painting, I'm looking really at that surface that I'm painting and trying to understand what shape it is, instead of trying to paint the vase on top of the background. The background is actually as important as the vase, because you have to remember that whatever you do, a painting is something flat. So, of course, the background is as important. What I call the background is those black surface, as important as what's on top, because it has the same role visually. So the vase and the background, you know, it's not a vase. It just it just colors. So why that would not be as important as that, while it has the same function, the same nature. So I already prepare. I have several series I want to work with you on. So this one is one of them, of course. And I'm also preparing something that I thought about it. I'm going to do a series of horses. I think they're really interesting. Horses are really interesting because there's something about the dynamic. There's something also about the structure, the bone structure, the muscle structure, and so on. And I think painting horses is going to be pretty cool. And I'm sure after painting like 60 vases and flowers, I'll be so sick of it. I'm just going to want to paint something different. It's important to, you know, have the possibility of changing subject. I've always been amazed by, you know, some painters, they paint the same thing over and over and over again. Okay. So you see, I don't pay attention to detail yet. I'm just covering, just trying to get the big mass, the big relationships between grays and black and all those things, and I'm not getting into detail yet. I explained that in a video about, you know, it's like when you build a house. You don't start putting the windows, the handles, even working in the kitchen if you don't have a roof. So right now I'm doing the foundation, I'm doing the roof, I'm doing all the main work. And once I will be done with that, I'm going to be able to go into details. I'm still working with the really large brush. And you see, I'm trying to keep the same energy, the same idea that Manet had when he painted that. So, you know, there's also often there's this, you know, duality, that battle between abstraction and figuration. I talked about it, and I will talk about it again, I'm sure. The truth is that that's a useless fight. Don't even spend any time either to convince people about it or even talk about it, because you know, figuration represents something. Okay, abstraction is supposed to represent, you know, nothing. That's the main difference. Still remains one thing. It's a figurative painting, but it's not the real object. It's flat. It's a rendering of something. So there's no need of trying to say, you know, is it harder to do abstraction, figuration, da da da. it's actually, it's the same thing and it's different. Of course, abstraction and figuration are a bit different. But it's definitely not worth having some fight about it. I'm telling you that because on my social media, there's often people, some people say, oh, this painting is better than this guy using a, throwing painting on the canvas or whatever. There's good figurative painting, and there's bad ones, and same thing for abstract. So, what I like about those paintings, those black and white paintings, is that it's a nice way as well to get into some sort of abstraction, because of course the flower per se have no colors. So because they have no colors, they really look abstract in many ways, like the vase. If you insulate just that area, is it really something figurative? I don't know. So you see, I'm organizing some passage. I talked about it already, about the fact that the light, to me, and when I say the light, it's funny because I'm talking about the light, which is black. But still, it's the lack of light. We're still talking about the light. So by doing that, I allow the light, the background, the color of the background to get into the vase. Now, the funny thing is that we're talking about black right now. So we say, oh, there's a lack of light. Now, I did the same painting and the background is red. And when I say red, it's a red. Then the red gets in the vase, so then it's the light getting in, the red light, the color red's getting into the vase. So you see, it's why black. I know, same thing with abstract. There's some people trying to say, oh, is black a color? Yeah. Of course it's a color. To me. And once again, there might be some of you who are going to say it's not a color. It's fine. We don't need to argue about it for days, The question is how we use it to create something marvelous, if we can. I'm mapping, same thing, I'm painting, I'm looking at things, I'm seeing areas of darkness, areas that are lighter and so on. So I'm just writing, I'm just noticing, I'm just making a plan, a blue, it's a little bit like, I use that image quite often where, if you have to draw, like for example, you have a friend coming from, I don't know, whatever, and you need to draw a map for him to go from your house to the train station to whatever. And then you're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to draw where is your house, where is the train station, and all the paths in between. And that's really important actually when we're going to start drawing, more working on the drawing thing, to understand that. Is the proportion, it's just we start from here and we're going here. Now if you start, like a lot of people do, you start the plan from your house and you start drawing the streets from your house. And you say, oh, you go straight, then you turn there, and then quite often there's not enough room on the paper, and the train station, you need actually 6 papers taped together just to. So what you need to do is to say, okay, my house is here and the train station is here, and then you organize your plan, your blueprint or whatever, the map between that. And you say, for example, in between my house halfway there's the store, the Apple store or whatever, and then you make, oh, the Apple store is here, so when you see it, you're halfway. And it's the same thing when you draw. It's exactly the same concept. It's just you map things. You say, I'm starting here, I'm going to end up here, and in between I have key points, and I'm just going to put them together to make sense with the rest of the map. What I'm doing right now is not a painting, it's a map. And any kind of painting is a map. You do a portrait, you're doing a map. You're doing the map between the nose, the eyes, the cheeks, the ears, the mouth, and all those distances are important. Of course, we can go into caricature and make the thing a bit different, but if you want to get the likeness, you're going to have to get the right proportion. So you're going to have to draw the map from your house to the train station with the right proportion. So it's about the same thing, you know. I think it's the easiest way to explain it. And so in order to do that, you need to train your eyes. It's like a musician. A musician, you know, you play a C, any kind of note, and the guy is willing to tell you if it's a major, minor, blah, blah, blah. Some people get it, you know, pretty, I won't say by birth, but they have a natural ear. But for some other people, it's a lot of training. And it's the same thing when you paint. So don't feel frustrated. You need to train your eyes in order to see those distances. And the more you're going to train, the more you're going to see them. And at some point, you know, when you use your brush like this and just measure the distance and so on, I mean, I'm sorry, here, you measure the distance, you know, we do that, you see a lot of that in art school and so on. I mean, yeah, for young painters, that's how it works. Sometimes it helps to get a tool to measure, to compare the distance and so on. And by comparing, it's going to help you to create the right proportion. The truth is that if you work a lot, if you paint a lot, those things are going to come naturally to you. You know, there's a point where things become effortless. And when they become effortless, doesn't mean you do them without paying attention and so on. It has become like something natural. And I'm a little bit more, now that I'm been doing portraits for years, my eye is naturally more trained to see those things than when I started. But when I started as a young painter, I was not painting the way I'm doing it today, because I trained my eyes. So you need to train your eyes, and it's going to come. You need to just work, and things will come to you. The truth is, some people it's going to come quickly, and for some other people it will come not as quickly, you know. We all know people who try to play an instrument, like the piano or things like this, and they take hours and hours of lessons, and they still don't know how to play, or they're not that good. And it happens. I mean, it's, you know, it's not given to everybody. Now, I do believe that there's always something that is given to you and that you can get. And if you make the choice of painting, it's obviously because you have a willingness to do it. And sometimes the willingness is more important than the gift. We see that a lot in sports, in, you know, where a guy is training harder. I remember, it's too light, but it's fine. I'm just going to wait. I mean, no, I'm just going to correct it, but I still have some white on my brush. So once it's on my brush, I'm just going to look if there's some areas that need it, and I'm just going to use it. And once the brush is more dry, I can come back and wipe off a little bit of that white. So yeah, I was saying, you know, I always remember, you know, I was living in LA for many years, so Mr. Kobe Bryant was really someone we are looking, you know, I mean, he was, I almost met with him. I mean, I did a portrait of him, and he saw it, and a friend of mine was working for him. But anyway, long story short story, he said something. He said that the best basketball player he has ever seen was the Shaquille O'Neal. But he was really not training. He was having the good life and so on, and it was not important for him to train. And so Kobe was the way around. Kobe was a really hard worker. He was the first one on the field for the training and the last one to leave. And so Shaq was more gifted than Kobe. but Kobe was working harder. So you see, we all have a different relationship with the practice. And it's not because you're going to work, it's going to be harder on you that you're going to be not as good. And it's not because it's going to be easier that you're going to be good either. You just need to train. Training is key. You know, a lot of people ask me, you know, where did I learn how to paint and da da da. You know where I learned how to paint? In the studio, spending hours and hours and hours to paint. The school gave me some good indication, good understanding, knowledge. But truthfully, I learned my job by painting and painting and painting and failing a lot. But what means failing? That just, you know, that's another question we can. Like there's some Cézanne. There's a portrait of Cézanne of a man reading a newspaper, and that painting is incredible because Cézanne struggled so much on that painting. It's not even funny. To see the painting, you realize that Cézanne was, first of all, Cézanne was not over-gifted. And I'm sorry, some people might think it's just terrible what I'm going to say, but I think he was more intelligent than gifted. I think Cézanne was a really intelligent painter. He was asking the right question and finding the right answers. There was painters during his lifetime that were much more gifted than him, but they were not asking the right questions, and surely they were not finding the right answers. So it's why you need to keep faith in what you do. You need to be humble. Humility is key. I remember I had some teachers who were saying that we should not paint things that are beautiful. We should paint things that are not. Like you know, like if you see a beautiful landscape, turn around, turn your back to the landscape and paint what's behind you because it's more challenging or whatever. Paint whatever you want. If you want to paint something really cheesy and you know, you please people and people love what you're doing and so on, that's fine for me. And if people tell you they know better than you, I mean, when it's come to technique and so on, maybe, but you never know when things are going to come to you, and if they will. The only really big thing that, and I just said it, it's humility. Be humble. And not necessarily with other people, with yourself. Be humble with your practice. Be humble with what you do. Look at yourself, look at your work. And anyway, the truth is that if you're a good painter, you will be humble. It's why it's great to go to see the old masters, you know, like the Titian, the Rembrandt, and all those guys, because when you see the paintings of those guys, then you come back to your studio and you just say, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to work even more, and that's a good thing. Okay, almost there. You see, I love that kind of thing, like the passage here. I go from dark to light, light to dark, and in just that little area, I need to be able to make the transition between those two things. And that's really something I absolutely adore. I love the magic of painting. I love the way our brain functions. I love the fact that you can see a bouquet of flowers while it's just a big chaos of painting, of pigment arranged in a way that I create some sort of an illusion. But the truth is, I'm not the one who's making the biggest effort. Your brain is. And we'll talk about that, about the fact that the brain is so powerful that you see a vase, while we're the only species that's going to see a vase here. If you show that to a dog or whatever, you can paint a bone, you can paint a fish. Your cat's going to look at it like it's nothing, and the bone, your dog's going to not even pay attention to it. So there's a reason why we're capable of doing that. And there's a scientific reason, biological. We're the only species on the planet that is a visual hunter. We hunt by sight. The dogs use their nose. I mean, you can tell me, yeah, eagles, they fly and they look at their prey. No, I'm talking about reading the tracks, the prints of an animal. If you give a print of a rabbit to a dog, if he doesn't smell a rabbit, he won't know it's a rabbit. And it's why, because we are visual hunters, it's why we read tracks to follow a lead after an animal, and eventually we create our own tracks. Okay, let's take the tape away. I love that. That's so fun. This is my track. This is the print of my animal in the dirt, and you can read it, so you know which animal I'm choosing to track. Okay, let me go back to the big camera. I think this is one. So thank you so much. So yeah, look. Okay. So let's do another one soon. Okay, bye-bye.